earned some extra credits, which this is very meaningful for me because it is probably my first exposure to game design and like how games are made in any capacity, and that's basically like a big step of why I'm here today. Also, Daniel has his personal YouTube channels, which have in total over 500,000 subscribers. He covers all sorts of games, and that's all outside of his day job as an animator. He's worked at Pixar Canada and many other places and on many games as well. So yes, let's welcome Daniel Floyd.
Let's grab one of these over here. Hey everybody. Hi. This has been a long time since I talked into a microphone in front of like actual physical people, so nice to see you all here. A little closer? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Didn't want to like shout at you, but hello. Hi.
Does anyone recognize Dan's voice?
Yes.
Okay, so how did extra credits start, and what is this on the blast? Video games and sex.
All right, so extra credits started by accident, like a lot of YouTube things, I suspect. I had to do a class project in school, and it was supposed to involve like a research thesis and a 10-minute oral presentation that I did not want to give, so I decided making a 10-minute video would be more fun and probably more entertaining for people, and I enjoyed doing that a lot, so when another class had me do something similar later, I did it again. That's that one. That ended up being that video, which I was hosting them on YouTube just to be like, it was an easier way to show the video in class. And that one ended up just spreading a bit more, like it got picked up and like people who weren't in my class were watching it. And so I just kept on making them kind of for fun, and eventually, like I was still a student at the time and did not have like industry experience at the time. So I teamed up with a game designer named James Portnow, who could actually like take over the writing of these things because he could speak from more experience. We brought in an artist. We brought in more artists. We kept on growing. One of our artists is actually here. Yeah. And that's how I met her. But yeah, so it just kind of kept on growing from there, but started again by accident.
Wow. And do you have any numbers of like how many people have watched extra credits and your video, and these videos?
God, I have no idea. So I know that there was definitely a point we reached with extra credits when I was still on it. I haven't been on it for a while, but there was definitely a point we reached where we were releasing at least 2 or 3 videos per week, and they would easily be getting like couple 100,000 views each, like fluctuating pretty wildly depending on the series or the video or whatever else. So I definitely don't have a total count. I think the most popular video I've ever made is about the animation in Sonic the Hedgehog, which has been seen like 8 or 9 million times now.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have a story of helping someone become a game dev or being a part of someone's game dev story through extra credits?
It's not really like any one person's story. I just, every now and then I will either get an email from somebody or I will work with somebody, like just in the industry, who will, at some point after we've worked together for a while, like they will, because I usually don't talk about my YouTube stuff at work, but someone at work will put like 2 and 2 together and it's like, what, you're the guy who does the thing, and then they will tell me about how like they were like studying programming and they were going into a completely different industry, but they'd started thinking about games like, and how interesting a like creative problem or project that could be. So that kind of changed the course of their career, and now I'm working with them because of that. And so like I feel very grateful anytime I have an encounter like that. I feel very flattered having had just like a tiny little effect on somebody's like life arc on the whole. Like it's very flattering and humbling to hear about. Yeah.
I can definitely say that I'm one of those people.
Oh.
So how did you become interested in animation?
Like I assume most people who grew up and were my age also enjoyed animated things. Like I don't think that was unique, but I definitely hadn't considered as a kid that animation was a thing that you could just like learn to do. There weren't like animation schools. I didn't know any other animators. I just assumed it was some magical thing Wizards on a Mountain made somewhere, and then it showed up on my TV. But When I was in school and trying to figure out what it was I was wanting to do in college, I found out that the drama department, of all things, had this tiny little digital media, like, little rogue group that was just doing like very basic CG stuff. And I thought, it never even occurred to me to look around for like class of that kind of thing. So I went and looked into it and found like, okay, I actually quite like this a lot. And the more I've learned about the craft of animation over the years since then, just the more fascinating I have found it. At this point, I don't think I'm going to stop finding it fascinating. Has anyone ever taken like an animation history class or animation history anything? It's fascinating, isn't it? For nerds like me and at least one or two other people in here. Okay, but yeah, like it's a very fun subject to study and learn more about, and you never run out of more to learn about it.
How did you end up in Vancouver or the Vancouver area, and what makes you stay here?
I first ended up here for work when, during the brief, like, lovely window of time where Pixar Canada was a thing, I got hired as an animator there, and so I ended up moving from the southeastern US up here, and enjoyed it immensely, but both the studio, but just also the city. Like this climate is so much nicer than summer in Georgia. You know how hot it is down there right now?
I was actually in Atlanta last week.
Okay, so you do know. You understand then, good. It's beautiful up here. There were so many more people with like of common interests, so there's so many more like places to do the kind of work I was interested in. So even when Pixar Canada closed down, like we ended up moving back down to Seattle to work there for a while. But my wife and I had been just kind of watching for opportunities to make our way back up here, just because it's a really gorgeous city. We've enjoyed being up here a lot. I think Canada's nice. It's what I imagine the US could be if it just chilled out a little.
What is this photo from?
This is from inside Pixar Canada. They had just a whole bunch of just big character models from different films. This is Bruce the Shark from Finding Nemo. Just the stuff that I guess that they weren't displaying in the main studio down in California anymore just wound up in our place. So this was in a stairwell. And I just really enjoyed having, you could just stand and have Bruce the Shark just staring really menacingly at you. And I enjoyed that a lot.
Well, it looks like you're a friend. So it's good. What was it like starting a career in animation back then?
I was going to say it's probably similar to right now, but that's probably, in this immediate moment, that's probably not true. I imagine in this immediate moment, getting started in animation is probably a nightmare. But even then, I had a very unique experience in getting to work at a place like Pixar right out of school, getting launched right into a place surrounded by incredible animators, some of the best this industry has, and having to step up to that level, but also having a whole bunch of people who are happy to coach you and teach you. I learned so much so quickly, while at the same time, in my off hours, I was doing extra credits as a series. I started both of those things at the same time. So at night in working on and reviewing scripts for extra credits episodes and recording voice stuff and just getting those shows made, I was learning more just secondhand about game design and more about that craft. So I was just learning a lot about animation and game development in general really quickly around the same time. And so, I don't know, for me it was just delightful and scary and invaluable, but I imagine it's also probably very unlike a lot of other people starting out as an animator, so I don't feel like my experiences aligns very much with most people's probably.
That's fair. That's a nice question. What are some of the projects you're perhaps would have worked on?
I find things in all of the games or shorts or whatever to work on that I get very invested in and that I'm very proud to have worked on. You work so long on these things, you find something to get really invested in and care about it creatively, but I still feel like nothing quite compares to working on a Pixar short that involves characters that you have grown up watching is just a really neat opportunity, and one that I don't expect to get something like that ever again. It's not something that most animators ever really get. Animators better than me, it's not something that's very common. It is very, it is a bizarre feeling like opening up in your animation software, just like loading in Woody for the first time and just looking, just like, there he is. That's Woody. I have to make him act now. Like, it's very daunting, but just like incredibly cool too. Yeah, so I think getting the opportunity to work on stuff like that with characters I already knew was a unique experience that I'm very grateful for.
Can you say like which exactly?
Yeah, so like we Pixar Canada largely did shorts, like generally with like Toy Story and Cars characters. So we did a couple of the sort of like Mater shorts, like Cars Tunes type things, like Time Travel Mater and Air Mater, just various like tall tales with Mater. I think the Toy Story ones were the ones that I had the most fun with. There was one called Small Fry that takes place in a fast food restaurant where Buzz just ends up lost in a fast food place overnight and sitting in on a support group meeting for like fast food toys who are trying to like just come to grips with their existence. There's another one called Partysaurus Rex, where Rex ends up getting like pulled in for like bath time play and just kind of left it there in the bathroom and finding out that the like bath toys are just these wild party nuts who just are always sad that like the water goes away and then party time is over. But Rex, unlike everyone else there, has arms and he can turn the water back on and cause a house flood ultimately. But like, just really fun, like just fun little short stories to get to work on. And it's fun getting to work on a project that is also, like, your part in it is probably 3 to 4 months long tops. Working in games, that has not been my experience ever since, but it was really nice then.
I think I pulled some of the games that you worked on. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is. I've also, I worked at Undead Labs for like 9 years. They're the folks who do State of Decay. I worked not only on State of Decay there, but that's a lot of what my time went to. I also went and pitched in on cinematics for Halo Infinite when they were kind of like trying to get that like across the finish line. I've worked on various other projects that like either were just never announced or never got any further. I helped out a little bit with cinematics on Homeworld 3, just a little bit. I've bounced around and had a wide range of game animation experience, which I've appreciated because I've learned a lot from doing it. It doesn't matter how many games you work on or how many places you make games at. Every team in studio seems so different. I feel like I don't feel like I'm ever going to be an expert at this. In fact, I feel like I know less now than I did 10 years ago.
Okay, now we're going to talk about New Frame Plus. So when you were starting New Frame Plus, this is, I guess, when you were leaving extra credits. Preface, this is a video, this is a YouTube channel about teaching and about analyzing game animation. So you can see over there, animation of Sonic games. Look how long this video is. 1 hour and 45 minutes, and it has 8 million views. So if you kind of want to watch a movie tonight, you can do that.
Yeah, if you have 2 hours and nothing to do and you care deeply about Sonic the Hedgehog, then I've got you covered.
Yeah, so what were your goals when starting New Frame Plus?
In part, just selfishly, I had been like, I had created kind of what became extra credits 10 years before ultimately choosing to leave. And I was just so used to effectively having 2 jobs. I was so used to having my day job, but also I really enjoyed the process of making these videos on the side and creating like edutainment that kind of explains the disciplines of game development. And animation was the one I knew most about, so it was the one that I decided to like continue making videos about. I'd made some kind of like early videos of this sort when I was still with extra credits, but that was sort of what I brought with me when I left and decided to just start making more of my own new thing. And it's been a great deal of fun, much harder to do when you're making them solo instead of with like a very, very capable team of people. But yeah, it's been a very fulfilling side project, I guess, to get to have.
How long does one of these videos take? I won't ask for as long.
It was a bit of an outlier, yeah. For the rest of these, though, like, it can vary depending on how much research I'm needing to do, but I feel like it's got to be like 80 to 100 hours for most of these things. some of them are probably less, some of them are significantly more, but that feels like about what I am on average putting into one of these things.
I think I heard in an interview that you have like 80 to 100 hours of Sonic footage.
Yeah, that's like, so the best part about making a video like this is after you have captured like that many hours of Sonic video game footage just from all these different games just to get the footage you need for the video and to study and analyze and to get all your notes, you then have to go back through all of that footage to find the clips you want to use or to just study it more closely to when you're trying to write the script to make sure that you're like, what you are saying is accurate. So like, there are so many steps to making a video like this, and having that much footage to sift through for just one video. I'm really envious of people who make YouTube videos about movies. In retrospect, that's way smarter.
Okay, could you tell us an interesting tidbit that you had to leave out of the video?
Yeah, okay. So in every video I'm going to be cutting something out, probably a few things, usually just for pacing. Like it worked in the script, but as soon as I got into a video itself, it just felt like, all right, the video's dragging at this point, let's cut that out. In the most recent video I made and put out, which was about the animation in Final Fantasy VI, I had this long tangent, that shouldn't have ever been in there, but this long tangent because I was too worried about people coming at me for my pronunciation of character names. But I was fortunate enough that I have worked with Ted Woolsey before, and he's the guy who localized those games originally. So if anybody knows how Sabin's name is supposed to be pronounced, he does. He's the only guy who does, because Sabin's not even like what that character is called in the Japanese text originally. He's called Mash in Japan. So those games weren't voice acted, obviously, and most of those characters haven't appeared in a voice-acted game later on, which is usually what I would go to and what I refer to. So I was just basically desperate for any sort of authority I could point to and say, no, I'm right, when people came and complained. So I had a long diatribe basically explaining all of that in the middle of the video, which when I was showing the script to a friend of mine, Soraya, who is a very good editor and reviews a lot of my scripts, she had told me that this is a long time to spend on something that is not relevant to anything else you're talking about. And yeah, it was. So the video is better for not having it, but yeah.
Okay, so those are some of my favorite of your videos you do, where each year you take a bunch of examples of what I guess some really unique animation from new games from that year. Yes, how do you cover so many games in each of your environments?
I just spend way too much time. I spend throughout the year, I am constantly trying to keep track of what all is coming out. I am checking the new releases page on Steam and just skimming through trailers on store pages constantly to kind of glance at the gameplay and see all right, is there anything here that I need to be digging into further to check? Is this a candidate? I'll be, as we get toward November, toward the end of the year, I will just be scanning tons of lists and wiki pages of every game release that came out in that given year. I will find the Game Trailers YouTube channel has this big playlist with thousands of trailers from every game that came out, and so I will just skim all of them until I am confident that I have found 95% of the games that came out this year and zeroed in on the ones that had cool animation, knowing that within 2 hours of release, somebody will post a comment saying, what about this? And with a game title I've never heard or seen before, and I will go look at it, and immediately it's that's really good. And I wish I'd put that in the video. Yeah, mostly I just, a lot of time spent trying to avoid an inevitable outcome.
What's the 2024 game with animation that has really impressed you so far?
Several. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is just dauntingly huge and so full of animation that, even a lot of animation that really it's too much. That game's too big, but it's very impressive. I've not gotten very far in the Elden Ring DLC yet, but there are some bosses that are just stunning to behold, that are just, they're so good at that. Has other stuff Little Kitty Big City has this really charming, like really adorable cat animation. It's just so cute and precious, and I just love seeing that sort of I love seeing that sort of like animated detail, like at an indie scale and level. I feel like I've not been doing my deep dive yet. I feel like there's a lot of really good stuff that has flown under my radar that I need to go back and find. If anybody knows of anything great that has come out, like animation-wise in a game this year, please do tell me.
I guess a similar question to the one with the extra credits, has New Frame Plus been a part of someone becoming an animator?
I think so. Like, it is kind of similar, where like I don't know any one of those people's stories like beginning to end. I just know there was a brief window of time where someone reached out to me about it, like whether it was a student asking about getting into the industry, or someone whose like kid was like showing an interest in animation, who like a parent reaching out to me and emailing me, or occasionally like it'll be a sort of a member of like the fan community for our channels who I'll just every now and then get updates from, like, hey, I'm starting school like at this animation school next week. And I was like, cool, good for you. And then like I'll not think about it for a while, and then like months or years later I hear like, I'm graduating, like I'm just about wrapped up, here's my reel. And I'm like, wow, look, I'm seeing the whole like progress. I'm just getting little updates, and then they'll tell me like when they get a job. Like it's very cool to see. I'm thrilled again to be able to contribute like a tiny amount to something cool like that.
Has anyone here watched this video? Yeah. Oh wow, yeah.
Aw, that is very flattering. Yeah, no, that I hear that one. Like, I have animator buddies who say that they're like, whenever they are giving a talk at a class or a school or something like that, that they are showing that one, they're borrowing that one pretty often, which I'm glad for. I was hoping to be able to make a really useful resource that's not too obsolete yet, I hope.
Okay, so this is the other active channel that you run, Play Friend, which is a Let's Play channel. Yeah, as you can see, Dan and his wife cover a lot of indie games and get them sometimes some pretty big traction. Yeah, how do you decide whether to play or cover a game on YouTube? I think a lot of people here, they're making games that they would like people to cover, so what do you think?
Usually, I feel like you'd probably get a very different answer from somebody who is like either a much bigger channel or like a big name Twitch streamer that everyone knows. For me, like the biggest thing is how personally interested I am in the game, because if I am like, as the person who's supposed to be trying to entertain, if I am not having a good time, I don't think I'm a good enough actor to like fake having enough of a good time, and I think that that's just going to be a less fun time for everyone involved. So that's usually like the first thing I am considering, but there will be lots of other variables too. Like the longer the game is, the more of a thing you are committing your channel to for a while. Like is the game the right sort of like tonal fit for like the audience that you've sort of cultivated? Like we tend to have a pretty like family-friendly, chill, relaxed, like not a whole lot of screaming or shouting, sort of big reaction stuff, which is a much more of a niche in the Let's Play space, but it's the sort of thing where I will want to make sure that the kinds of games we're playing are ones that I think the people who come to watch our stuff would also enjoy. Like, there are lots of factors that I'll consider, but like how interested and excited I personally am, I feel like is still the one that I like prioritize the highest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, with the tone, and maybe not being so reactive or having the big expressions and stuff. That's why I think puzzle games work really well. I have downloaded from your recent series of Chance of Sinar, or like Forgotten City with Soraya, or Bugsnax, or Return of the Old. I've downloaded those to watch them on the plane.
That is so flattering.
So it's getting me through.
I hope we made the flight okay, like better.
Okay, this is a little bit of the question I just said, but like from your experience, what are elements that make a game good for creating content, and how do you like? That's from your experience, and then how does that differ from the wider YouTuber or like content creator landscape?
So for Let's Play stuff specifically, or Twitch streaming, I think it comes down to, it can be a few different things, but I think it kind of comes down to the experience being something that has a little bit of a kind of dramatic tension to it, whether that is scary games do very well because everyone is excited to sort of watch the streamer or the Let's Player experience the scary thing and react to the big thing, and there's a shared tension there. Or it can be a shared tension of the players doing something very hard. Can they overcome this challenge? Will they achieve that? I think that games which, for a Let's Player or a streamer, since so much of your audience is there to either enjoy the entertainment that you are bringing as an entertainer, or are enjoying the experience of sort of like parasocially sitting on the couch next to you as you play their favorite game, that sort of thing, right? I think the game ends up kind of being part like stage for you as the Let's Player and part like improv partner at the same time. So games which give you plenty to react to and respond to and talk about, or any game that gives you a lot but also leaves space for you as well is something that I find the easiest to make videos of that sort about, and that it is easiest to sort of get in that just fun, creative, improv, goofing around headspace with. But it can also, I think it can vary pretty heavily. Like, I don't think I could make a very entertaining Let's Play video about like a city builder, let's say, but I've seen some people who like have the skill set and the sensibility and just the knack with that genre to just be so fun to watch them just plan out a city. Like maybe they're like an actual city planner as their day job, so they have a lens on this that I don't have, and that's fascinating. That's not very helpful to any of you actually making a game.
I think the part about like having a game that's a stage for someone to interact with, I do think that's the core of what ends up being popular streaming games.
It does definitely. It definitely helps. Also, like giving the player a little bit of room for like expression as well. Like it doesn't have to be a full-on sort of like Sims or Minecraft or something like that. But the more that the player can bring more of themselves and add more of themselves and their community of people who like following them into the game itself, the more personal that shared parasocial experience kind of becomes as well. Like, I think it, again, very much depends on the kind of Let's Player or streamer you are. But again, I don't know how helpful I'm being to those of you making games with this one, but.
So make something that has lots of choice.
Yeah. But if it's, like, to the second question there, like, if it's not, like, the Let's Play space is, again, so much about either the Let's Player being entertaining or just about that parasocial watching a friend experience a thing that you already know. I feel like a lot of the series that get a lot of traction on our Let's Play channel are games that people have already played themselves, can't get that first time experience with again, but they want to feel that again by watching someone else go through that again. Once you understand the solutions in Baba Is You, you can't, like your second playthrough of Baba Is You is not the same. But you can watch someone go through their first time through Baba Is You, and that feels like you get some of that secondhand feeling. With other kinds of videos though, I feel like there's a much wider range. I think any game could make a fascinating like YouTube video. Like, has anyone here heard of the channel Action Button? Tim Rogers? Okay, I've seen, okay, good. The rest of you, I highly recommend it. Tim has made some videos about games that when I start the video, I have never heard of that game before. It may never have been like localized and released in the West. By the end of that video, I cared deeply about that video game, more than I do about some of my old favorites, just by listening to him for like 3 or 4 hours, very entertainingly explain it and get to its heart and soul. Like, I think with other kinds of content, like a video essay as to who's good can make literally any video game seem fascinating by finding the right thing to latch onto and dig further into.
Okay. Okay, this is another, I guess it's kind of the same question we did already, but do you have any specific advice for small developers who like to, content creators to cover the game they're making? And I think this is a very good example, made by one Canadian guy, and then streamed by another great Canadian guy, and yeah, so what do you think?
Absolutely. I think like the side of this that I most often experience is like receiving an email about a game's release. So we are not a big Let's Play channel. We are pretty like mid to small size fish in that pond compared to some of the larger folks. But even we still receive like 5 or 6 or 7 like press release emails a day for games coming out. Like more than we can keep up with, more than we are ever going to feature. So the more enticing that email we receive is, the more that I can at a glance look at that email and its contents and see something in it that is like, ooh, okay, that is either a really pretty art style, or they put in a little animated GIF showing some of their game in action, and just like that captures a really appealing, interesting moment. Like the instant there's something that I can, as the person who would in theory be playing and performing with that thing, if I can see something in that email that immediately grabs me as like, okay, that looks like something that has potential. I want to now stop skimming and actually read this and click the link to the Steam store page and look into it further and start digging further in. Like anything that basically can help to sell your game to someone who is probably skimming it at best, skimming that email at best, the better. But that said, like a lot of the emails that we get are clearly from sort of like PR, like mailing list things that are going out to, like just sent out to a wide list of people. If we get an email from somebody that is very clearly like, all right, this is handwritten and this is to us directly, and that they are saying, hey, we just released our game, or my friend just released their game, here's a Steam key to it, we like the stuff you do. Just like clearly writing a more personal thing, that like, even if the game they've made is not even something to my taste or not something that I think is going to fit our channel at all, I will still go and download it and try it. Like, I will make a point of doing that in a way I won't for any of the other like emails that we are receiving, because like that, it cuts through and makes it immediately clear as the person receiving the email that another human being sent you a thing in a way that feels very different. So I know this is all basically talking about how to email the person, but I do honestly think that like that ends up making the biggest difference in terms of what games I pay attention to when I am reached out to or contacted about a game which is coming out, one which I am not already aware of, which is a lot of them, because God, there are so many games that come out every single week. So like anything you can do to get the streamer's attention. Also just reach out to, like, if you've made a game, reach out to streamers and content creators you like, but also try to find other people who are making videos and making content about games like yours, similar to yours, because that clearly means that those games already speak to that creator's interests and also speak to their audience. Like it is something that is going to appeal to them directly. So like when I receive a game that I can tell at a glance, it's like, that is extremely our speed, that is extremely our tone, like our fans of our channel are going to adore this, like that immediately just like launches it up to the top of my like to-do list so fast. So yeah.
Okay, very, very helpful email. Okay, this is the soapbox time. What big dangers do you see for creative industries, and which direction do you hope that they will go?
It is hard to think of anything, like the game industry right now is a very scary place to be, at all scales and levels, I imagine. Not that I know any solutions for it. It is very daunting. I feel like whatever creative field you are in right now, it is hard to feel optimistic with. It feels like your fate is subject to the whims of big business or big tech or both. And there's not a whole lot that you can do about it. And that is very frustrating and exhausting. And anyone else here who's feeling that, I sympathize, I feel for you. I am hoping that in the long run, whatever's on the other side of this sort of shift we're in the middle of, that people are prioritized over the works they are creating. again, it's hard to feel optimistic, but I am hopeful of that. I'm also hopeful that, and this I suppose applies to larger studios and companies and things more than smaller scale, but maybe smaller scale as well. I hope that we start to really understand and believe and like really internalize how important institutional knowledge is as an industry, because we really seem, especially here in the like sort of the North American industry, we seem really bad at it. And with so many impossible seeming games coming out lately from studios like Larian and FromSoft and Nintendo and all these other companies that say, yeah, we did it by just keeping like the same people who've been making all the other games that led up to them being able to make this one, they're still here and they've had practice working together. We've been building up our tools. We're only able to make this because all the people who made these are still here and are refining their process. Like that clearly works. And I hope that that's something that more places learn.
Okay, thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Audience questions. Okay, you are.
Hey, thanks for the answers. I have a quite strange question. Did you remember any game that stands out that you covered in your channels? And it was an amazing video and fun to watch, but it was really kind of not fun to play.
I'll be honest, I am not a Sonic fan, and no one believes me, and I understand why, because look at the runtime, but for real, I am more of like, I am not a fan of Sonic games. Even the good ones, I generally find like, this is not for me, I do not enjoy it, but I do find Sonic just academically fascinating on an animation level as well, because like, it's so rare that you'll get a franchise with like such a like huge variation in like a success or like game quality, but also such a huge variation in animation quality that does not match the exact same like art as the game quality. Like it's so rare, and that makes it so fun to dig into and study and all that. But absolutely yes, there are lots of games that I dig into that I feel like are either not to my taste or just not very good games, but the animation in here has something that is very neat and interesting to dig into. Like I've been making a series about the animation in Final Fantasy games. I don't think Final Fantasy II, like original NES, is a very successful game from like a play experience level, but it is on the timeline of the development of animation in that franchise, 2 is actually a really, really important one. And an enormous step up over the first, even though its animation scope is almost exactly the same. Just the way that they figure out how to use the assets they have for narrative is such a fundamental core thing that you then see the games which follow immediately latch onto and build on. But I don't want to have to play Final Fantasy II again, and I'm glad I finished the video.
How much do you find how much do you think that the skills that are used in video game animation overlap with the same skills used in animation for film and TV?
So the skills do overlap between games and film, but you are using the same craft and the same principles, but you are, in using them in a different medium, there are different goals and different purposes. In film, polish and performance and all of this stuff is king. Like you are crafting animation to be viewed within the context of the film, and you are crafting all that animation to that one camera angle. You know exactly where your shot fits into the larger film. You know the context of the scene. You're basically just a performer acting through the character, which is a very fun and creative process. Animation for games is so much more of an iterative, non-linear thing where you are often building out just a huge, especially if you're in gameplay animation, you're just building out a huge array of animation pieces that are all meant to blend and transition together, and you're basically just building up you're building up and sculpting and fleshing out the capabilities of any given character and the different things that they can do, but you are not in direct control of what things that character is going to do or in what order. The player might be, the programming and AI systems may be driving how all that stuff goes. You are designing it as best you can, but also like gameplay function and clarity is so much more important ultimately than it looking pretty. That I think it takes, for film animators who have had to make the jump to games, I think it is challenging at first to kind of get used to the different needs and goals, and you have to kind of get used to recognizing where sometimes you're going to have to just be okay with the animation looking worse because, boy, it feels so much better to control the character when it works this way. So, yeah.
I think we can do one more. I think it's the back. Sorry,
I can hang out longer afterwards too if anyone wants to just come up and ask a question later on. So.
Have you ever thought about going back to using that higher pitched voice you used in the credits?
I've thought about it on occasion. I am now more used to hearing my voice, my regular voice in things. I'd probably only do it as a goof at this point. It was a thing that, at the time, it was a great way to slightly shorten video runtime and disguise how very bad the mic I was using was, and I liked the character on screen having a slightly different voice than me. I am much more used to hearing my own voice played back at me now, and probably not, but I don't know. It could be fun as a goof at some point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.